The galaxy was awake, not in the normal way, not with trade routes buzzing, children running in glowing streets, and ships flowing in and out of orbital docks. No, this was the kind of awake that came when something went wrong. Terribly wrong. 7 worlds had gone silent. No warning, no emergency signal, no last screams over the come. Just nothing. At first, people thought it was a glitch, a communication failure. The kind of thing that sometimes happened when solar storms hit hard or when hyperlane relays went out. But when technicians checked, the relays were fine. The stations were fine. Everything that should have been working was working. Except the people. There were no people on the Galactic Newsnet. The anchor's voice trembled as she read the words that no one wanted to hear. Confirmation from the Union Council. The colony worlds of Kalyar, Vestas Prime, Dural, Port Shaw, and 3 others are gone. Entire populations have vanished. No bodies, no signs of evacuation. Cities stand empty. The camera feed behind her showed frozen images from reconnaissance drones. City towers still glowing with light. Meals left half-eaten on tables. Doors hanging open as if someone had just walked out and never came back. The Union Council met in their great chamber on Drelvos, a planet so rich and beautiful it was called the Jewel of the Core. Normally, council meetings were slow, full of speeches and politics. This time, no one wasted time. The High Speaker of the Council, a Thursday, long-bodied Krasari with a jeweled crest, slammed his gavel. "We have an unknown threat," he said, voice sharp. 7 worlds in 5 days, no survivors. This cannot be natural. We must act. One counselor, a thin, scaled Selvan, hissed. Act? Against what? We don't even know what is doing this. Then, send the fleets, another counselor barked. Sweep the systems, search every rock, every cloud. And if they vanish too? Someone else asked. We would be throwing ships into the dark with no idea what we are facing. Silence. That silence was worse than shouting. It was the silence of fear, real fear. The kind that made even the strongest civilizations hesitate. That far away, on the outer edge of Union space, a human sat in a dim room, watching the broadcast on a cracked holoscreen. Captain Mara Vance did not look afraid. She was in her late 30s, with short black hair and a lean, hard face that didn't show much emotion. Her eyes were sharp, too sharp, like they were always looking for an enemy, even when she was alone. The galactic announcer's words echoed in the small space. Still no official theory on the cause of the disappearances. The Union has called for calm, but border systems are now evacuating. Mara muted the feed and sat back in her chair. She had seen this before. Not exactly this, but close enough. The room's comm unit beeped once. No ID tag appeared. That meant only one thing. It was a black channel call. She answered without a word. A man's voice came through, deep and steady. Captain Vance, this is command. Mara's jaw tightened. She hadn't heard that voice in years. Didn't think I'd ever hear from you again, she said. Things have changed. I can see that. She gestured at the silent newsfeed. 7 worlds, probably more soon. What's your theory? There was a pause. We don't have a theory. We have a match. Her stomach sank a little. You mean, yes, pattern match. 78% similarity to Earth File Epsilon 9. Project Beasts. Mara's chair creaked as she leaned forward. That file was sealed, erased from official archives. Not erased, the voice said. Just hidden. We never destroyed it. We couldn't. Too dangerous to lose. She closed. Her eyes. The memories came back. Rumors from her early military years. Stories about something Earth made during the pre-Union era. Something so dangerous the Union banned it under threat of planetary sanction. And now, they were talking about using it again. I'm not sure you understand what you're asking, Mara said. We do. And we also know you're the only one with the clearance and the training to do this. You have 2 hours to decide. If you accept, coordinates will follow. And if I refuse? The voice did not hesitate. Then we'll send someone else, and they'll die, and more worlds will fall. The line went dead. Mara sat there for a long time. The hum of the station's air system the only sound. Project Beasts, they were never supposed to be used again. Never supposed to be awakened. But if the pattern really matched... She stood and crossed the room. In the corner was a tall black case, long sealed with a biometric lock. Dust coated its surface. She hadn't touched it in years. Her palm hovered over the reader for a moment before she placed it down. The lock clicked. The lid opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a single thick file. Physical paper, not digital. The kind you could hold in your hands. The kind you couldn't hack from light years away. On the cover, in bold black letters, Project Beasts, Level Omega clearance only. Her fingers tightened on the folder. Elsewhere. In the council chamber, arguments turned into shouting. Humans should stay out of this, a counselor barked. They are new to the Union. Their military is primitive. Primitive? A Drenari admiral snarled. They survived 3 extinction-level wars before joining us. And you think they can't help? Help? They'll make things worse. The high speaker banged the gavel. Enough, no more bickering. Until we know what we face, no fleet will move without my order. If you send ships without approval, you will be stripped of command. The chamber erupted again. Mara didn't care about politics. She cared about results. 2 hours later, she was on a small black transport, its hull unmarked. Only one person was with her, a tall, quiet man named Keller, her old second-in-command. He didn't ask questions. He never had. The coordinates took them to a dead zone in Antarctica. White ice stretched in every direction. The wind screamed across the frozen plain, shaking the transport. Mara stared out the viewport. Somewhere beneath that ice was the vault. The vault that had been locked since before she was born. They landed on a flat sheet of ice. No buildings, no beacons, no sign that anything existed here. But Keller was already pulling up a scanner, finding the buried signal. Got it, he said, pointing, 200 meters down. Mara stepped into the freezing wind. Her boots crunched over the ice. They reached a patch of snow that looked no different from any other, except for the faint metal ring half buried at the center. Mara knelt and brushed away the snow. The ring was attached to a hatch, so cold. It burned her gloves. She pressed her hand to the center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the hatch lit up faintly, scanning her palm. A deep rumble shook the ice. The hatch split open, and warm air rushed out. Steaming in the cold. Keller followed her down a narrow metal staircase into the dark. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. By the time they reached the bottom, the air was almost hot. A long corridor stretched ahead, lined with massive steel doors. Each door was marked with warning symbols in dozens of alien languages. Danger, do not open classified Earth property. At the end of the corridor was a console. Mara stepped up to it and placed the file from her case on the surface. The console scanned it, then beeped. A voice, mechanical, flat, spoke. Omega clearance confirmed. Project Beast's vault unlocked. The steel doors hissed and slid open. Behind them was darkness. Not the empty darkness of an unused room, but a heavy, waiting darkness, like something inside was holding its breath. Rows of massive cryopods stood in the chamber, frost coating their glass. Shapes moved faintly inside, shapes too large to be human, too strange to be animal. One of the pods hissed as lights flickered on. The frost began to melt. Something inside opened its eyes. Golden eyes. They locked on Mara, and in that moment, she felt very small. The golden eyes did not blink. They glowed faintly in the frost-covered pod, fixed on Mara as if they were studying her, deciding what she was worth. Keller shifted uncomfortably beside her. Feels like it's looking into my head, he muttered. It is, Mara said quietly. The vault, the chamber, was huge, far bigger than Mara had imagined. It was a long hall lined with towering cryopods, each one wide enough to hold a small vehicle. They stood in 2 rows like silent giants, their surfaces glowing faint blue. The frost on the glass made it hard to see inside, but the shapes were there, massive, powerful, alien-looking, and yet somehow familiar. Some looked vaguely like Earth predators, a feline body here, a wolf-like head there, but they were different, too big, too precise. Like the laws of nature had been rewritten to make them stronger, faster, and far more dangerous. On the floor, the warning signs repeated over and over. Classified Earth Property Project beasts. Do not engage, Keller swallowed. This is insane. They actually kept them down here all this time? Mara didn't answer. She walked slowly between the pods, her eyes scanning the names on each. They weren't names like Leo or Shadow. They were designations, B1, B2, B3, all the way to B12. 12 pods. Each pod had a small plaque underneath with a single word. Cinder, Howl, Vex, Fang, Meyer. The one with golden eyes was B3. Its plaque read, Cinder. The file Mara set the thick paper file on a nearby table. She opened it, the old paper crackling in the warm air. The first page was simple. Project Beasts. Initiated. 2103 CE purpose. Development of adaptive, sentient combat predators for extreme environments. Authorized by Earth Defense Command. Level Omega. Warning. Absolutely forbidden under Union biological warfare laws. Keller leaned over her shoulder. You've read this before, haven't you? Parts of it, Mara admitted. The rest was above my clearance back then. She flipped the page. There were grainy photos, massive creatures moving through fire, swimming through flooded ruins, scaling sheer cliffs. The notes explained the idea. Earth had been fighting alone in the early days, before the Union even knew humanity existed. Not all enemies were other humans. Some were alien raiders. Others were wild predators on hostile colony worlds. The beasts were made to fight in those conditions, places too deadly for soldiers or machines. They weren't just strong. They could think. They could plan. They could adapt to any enemy, any terrain. The last line of the summary made Keller exhale sharply. Do not mistake them for animals. They are soldiers. The problem. Mara turned another page, this one stamped with a huge red termination order. The beasts had only been used once, during the siege of Varela. She had heard whispers about it in military history lessons. The siege was one of humanity's bloodiest battles, a fight against an alien invasion that wiped out almost an entire continent. The beasts were released in less than 3 days. The enemy was gone, not defeated. Not captured, gone, no prisoners, no bodies to bury. Just shredded remains and empty armor. But the reports didn't stop there. After the battle, the beasts had not returned to base. They had scattered. For days they hunted anything they found. Invaders, wild animals, even unarmed civilians who got too close. It had taken a week of constant tranquilizer bombardment to put them back into cryosleep. The project was shut down, the vault sealed, and the Union was told it was experimental tech that failed. The truth was buried. The call. Keller looked at her. So now Command wants to use them again? Against whatever's killing the colonies. Mara nodded slowly. It's the only reason they'd send me here. But if they go out of control again, they will, Mara said. That's their nature. The question is whether they'll kill the right enemy before that happens. Keller stared at the pods, his voice low. And if they don't? Mara, close the file. Then we put them down, permanently. The awakening. She moved to the control console at the side of the chamber. The screen lit up with a list of all 12 pods. Their life signs stable but slow, deep cryosleep. The system asked for an activation code. Mara entered the one she had memorized years ago but never thought she'd use. The screen flashed. Red, warning, release protocol irreversible. She hesitated for 3 seconds. Then pressed confirm. One by one, the pods began to hum. The frost melted from the glass. Inside, massive shapes stirred. Cinder, the golden-eyed beast, was the first to open its eyes fully. They glowed like molten metal. It didn't roar or snarl. It just looked at Mara. And somehow, she knew it recognized her. Memory, the first time Mara had ever seen a beast. She had been 19, a new recruit on Earth's security force. She hadn't been told what she would see that day. It was in a remote training base. The test subject was behind a reinforced wall of alloy glass. It was larger than a horse, lean like a cat but with the muscle of a bear. Its head was wolf-like, but the eyes were human. Her commander had said, "Never think of them as pets. They are soldiers, and they don't love you. They obey as long as it suits them." Now looking at Cinder again, Mara wondered if those words were still true. First contact, the Thattir. Pod door hissed and slid open. Warm mist spilled out. Cinder stepped forward slowly, muscles rippling under black fur that seemed to swallow the light. It was silent except for the faint click of claws on the steel floor. It stopped 2 meters from Mara. Head low, eyes locked on hers. Keller's hand drifted toward his weapon. Mara shot him a look. "Don't," she said. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, in a voice that wasn't really a voice, more like a thought that pressed into the mind, Cinder spoke. "You woke us." Keller swore and took a step back. "It can talk?" Mara didn't look away from Cinder. "Not with words. It's different. You hear it in your head." "Why?" "Because something is killing our worlds," Mara said aloud, hoping it could understand. "And we need hunters." There was a pause. Then the voice came again, colder this time. "We are not your tools." Mara felt her stomach tighten. "No, you're our last chance." The others, one by one, the other pods opened. The beasts emerged, each different, each terrifying in its own way. Howl, silver-furred, long-limbed, with a mouthful of needle teeth. Vex, scaled like a reptile, with eyes that never blinked. Fang, massive, thick-shouldered, with tusks like a war elephant. Mire, low and sleek, its body coated in slick black skin that seemed to drip shadow. They circled, sniffing the air, watching the humans. There was no roaring, no obvious aggression, but the weight of their presence made Keller's knees lock. The choice Mara addressed them. "You were made for war. That war is here again. If you help us, we can stop what's killing the colonies." Vex tilted its head. The thought voice came again, but this time from multiple minds at once. "And when the war ends." Mara didn't lie. "Then we decide what happens next. Together." There was a long silence. Then Cinder's voice came, cutting through the others. "We will hunt. Show us the prey." The mission Mara uploaded the coordinates of the most recent attack to the vault's central display. The beasts studied the map like trained tacticians. "They learn fast," Keller muttered. "They were designed to." Mara replied, but as she watched them, something in the back of her mind whispered a warning. If they were this smart, they could also decide they didn't need orders. The vault doors began to close behind them. Outside, the Antarctic storm howled, a perfect cover for what was about to be unleashed. Closing scene as Mara and Keller led the beasts toward the transport. Cinder fell into step beside her. Without looking at her, the thought voice spoke again. "The galaxy fears the wrong monsters." Mara glanced at him, but his golden eyes were already forward, fixed on the hunt ahead. Somewhere, far from Earth, another world would soon fall silent, but this time, the hunters would be waiting. The transport cut through the storm like a steel arrow. Snow lashed against its hull, but the beasts inside didn't seem to notice. They sat, or crouched, in the cargo bay, perfectly still, like statues. Only their eyes moved, tracking every sound, every shift of the ship. Mara sat across from Cinder. The golden-eyed beast hadn't looked away from her since they left the Antarctic vault. It wasn't aggression. It was something else, measuring, studying. Keller was beside her, checking his rifle for the 5th time. "I don't like how quiet they are," he muttered. "They're waiting." Mara said the target, the mission was simple on paper. A Union colony on the planet Turin 4 had gone dark 3 days ago. No distress calls, no survivors spotted by orbiting drones. Only one thing had been recorded: movement in the forests near the colony's center. Union troops sent to investigate had vanished without a trace. Command wanted answers. Mara knew they'd get more than that. Landing, the transport descended through thick clouds into the pale green atmosphere of Turin 4. The forest below was dense. Massive trees with black bark and leaves like dark glass. Shadows pooled between them, deeper than they should have been. The pilot's voice crackled over comms. "Touchdown in 2 minutes. I'll keep the engines hot. No way I'm sitting still down here." When the transport's rear hatch lowered, warm, damp air rushed in, carrying a smell like rotting meat. The beasts rose in unison. Cinder took the lead, stepping out into the strange light without hesitation. The others followed silently, fanning out as if they'd already mapped the terrain. The first sign the colony was only 2 kilometers away, but the path through the forest was slow. The ground was soft, sucking at boots and paws. Vex, the reptile-eyed beast, froze suddenly. Its head turned, nostrils flaring. Blood, it sent into their minds. The smell hit Mara a second later, metallic, sharp, wrong. They found the first body under a tree, or what was left of it. The armor was shredded, the bones snapped like dry sticks. No scorch marks, no bullet holes, just teeth. Keller knelt to inspect it. Something big. "Something fast," Mara said, looking at the deep claw marks in the ground around the corpse. Cinder sniffed the air. "It is still here." The colony, the trees thinned suddenly, opening into what had once been the colony square. Metal buildings stood in silent rows, their walls dented and scorched. Doors hung open. The wind carried no sound, no animals, no machinery. Then Mara saw the tracks. Huge, 3-toed prints sunk deep into the soil. Too deep for any known native creature. The beasts spread out instantly, each moving to a vantage point. No orders were given. They didn't need them. Keller whispered, "If they can work together like this, maybe this will actually..." A scream cut him off. The attack had came from the far side of the square. A Union soldier, or what looked like one, stumbled into view. His armor was torn, his helmet gone. Blood ran down his face. "Help!" he gasped, running toward them. Cinder moved before Mara could react. In a blur, it leapt past her, past Keller, covering the distance in seconds. The soldier's eyes widened. He turned to run, and something huge exploded from the shadows behind him. It wasn't a beast from Earth. Its body was long and low, its skin slick and dark like wet stone. 4 legs ended in hooked claws, and its head was a nightmare of teeth that seemed too many for its skull. It hit the soldier with enough force to break bone, dragging him into the dirt. The man screamed once, then went silent. Cinder slammed into the creature, the two rolling in a blur of claws and teeth. The fight, the other beasts joined in instantly. Fang barreled into the creature's side, tusks ripping into its armor like hide. Howl darted in from behind, jaws snapping at its spine. The thing fought like nothing Mara had ever seen. Fast, flexible, and utterly without fear. It twisted free from Fang, raking deep cuts down the beast's shoulder. Fang didn't even flinch. Vex leapt onto its back, claws digging deep. The alien shrieked, A high, piercing sound that made Mara's vision swim. Keller fired, his rifle round sparking. Off the creature's hide. Doesn't even scratch it. Don't shoot, Mara ordered. They've got it, and they did. In less than 10 seconds, the alien was torn apart. Its black blood steamed where it hit the ground. The beast stood over it, breathing hard but not exhausted. Cinder's golden eyes turned to Mara, one of many. The nest they found the nest in the colony's underground storage tunnels. Dozens of the creatures, all dead, ripped open, throats crushed, bodies broken. The air was thick with the stench of decay. In the center of the nest was something worse. Eggs. Hundreds of them, each one as big as Mara's chest, the shells pulsing faintly as if something inside was already moving. Keller swore under his breath. If these hatch, they won't, Mara said. Before she could give an order, Meyer slid forward. Without a sound, the shadow-skinned beast sank its claws into the nearest egg and crushed it. Thick fluid spilled out, the smell burning in their noses. The others joined in, methodically destroying every egg. No hesitation. No mercy. When they were done, the tunnel was silent again. The real threat. They were heading back toward the surface when Vex froze again. Something follows. The beasts turned as one, eyes narrowing. Mara strained to hear. At first nothing, then, faintly, a metallic scraping sound from deeper in the tunnels. A shadow shifted. Something stepped into view. It was another of the creatures, but larger, its hide thicker, its teeth longer. Its eyes burned with an intelligence the others hadn't shown. Cinder's voice was sharp in her mind. Alpha. The Alpha moved with slow, deliberate steps, never looking away from them. It didn't attack right away. It was studying them, the same way Cinder had studied Mara. Then it moved. The Alpha fight, the speed was unreal. One moment it was 10 meters away. The next it was slamming into Fang with enough force to throw the massive beast into a wall. Howl leapt at its throat, but the Alpha caught him mid-air, hurling him aside like a rag doll. Meyer tried to flank it, melting into the shadows, but the Alpha turned with impossible precision, claws slicing deep into Meyer's side. The beasts regrouped instantly, surrounding it. Mara felt the pressure in her head as their voices overlapped. Now, they attacked as one. Cinder went high, aiming for the eyes. Fang hit from the left, tusks driving deep. Vex and Howl struck the legs, hamstring it. Meyer slid in low, claws tearing open its belly. The Alpha shrieked, not in pain, but in rage. It slammed Cinder into the ceiling, twisted free from Fang, and tried to flee back into the tunnels. It didn't make it. Cinder landed on its back, teeth closing on the base of its skull. There was a sickening crunch. The Alpha went limp. Aftermath. Beasts stood in silence for a moment, their chests rising and falling. Mara stepped forward slowly. Is it over? Cinder looked at her. Here. Yes, but there are more. Mara nodded. Then we keep hunting. A warning as they made their way back to the transport. Keller walked beside her. They're incredible. If we had them in every colony. No, Mara said sharply. He frowned. Why not? She glanced at the beasts ahead of them, moving in perfect formation without a word. Because once you let them loose everywhere, she said quietly, you'll never get them back in the cage. Cinder's golden eyes flicked toward her, as if he'd heard. And Mara knew. He had. The colony world of Tarin 4 had fallen silent once again. But this time, it was different. The beasts had killed the alien creatures that destroyed the colony. The nests were crushed, the eggs destroyed. The Alpha was dead, yet the silence remained. Aftermath. Mara stood on the surface, watching as the wind whipped dust and broken leaves across the empty town. Her breath came out in short clouds. The cold was sharper here than on Earth, but it felt less real than the fear twisting her stomach. Why is it so quiet? Keller asked behind her. Mara didn't answer. She scanned the horizon. No signs of life. No movement. Nothing. She turned to the beasts. They stood at attention, their eyes glowing softly in the dim light. Cinder approached her, silent and steady. "Something remains," the mental voice said. "The discovery, deep beneath the colony." The team set up scanners. Keller's voice crackled through the cum. "There's a strange signal here. Weak, but definitely alive." Mara's heart jumped. "What kind of signal?" "Not biological," Keller said. "It's artificial. Something mechanical." They followed the signal down a narrow shaft, one the aliens had used to carry supplies. Underground. The walls were slick with moisture and covered in strange scratches. At the end of the tunnel, the scanners went wild. A small, black sphere hovered silently. It blinked once and vanished. The parasite Mara reached for her rifle, but Cinder held a paw out. "Wait, it's watching." The sphere reappeared, this time surrounded by dozens of tiny tendrils. It twisted and writhed like a living shadow. Suddenly, it shot forward at incredible speed, straight toward the nearest beast. Hal barely had time to react before the sphere struck his neck. A searing pain shot through Howell's body. His eyes glazed over. He staggered. Mara shouted, "Get it off him!" The others lunged, claws ripping at the sphere. But it slipped free and disappeared into the dark tunnels. Howell collapsed. His breathing was shallow. The threat revealed. Mara knelt beside Howell. "What's happening to him?" Cinder's voice was grave. "A parasite. It infects the mind, controls the body. We have fought these before, but never this close." Keller looked worried. "If it can control a beast, what can it do to humans?" Mara clenched her fists. "We have to find it and stop it." The enemy's plan back on the transport. Mara studied the data the scanners collected. The sphere was a drone, a surveillance device designed to infect and control any living being it touched. It was part of something bigger, a network, a hive mind. The alien creatures they fought were not acting alone. They were being controlled. And the controller was still out there, watching, waiting. The Council's fear. Meanwhile, the Galactic Union Council watched the news from Taran 4 with growing alarm. The high speaker slammed his gavel. "This is no longer a simple attack. This is biological and mechanical warfare combined. Our fleets will not win against this." A counselor from the Selvan race said, "We must demand Earth destroy these beasts immediately." Another counselor shouted, "They are dangerous. If the parasites infect them, what will happen?" Mara heard the news through encrypted channels. She knew they feared what she knew too, that the parasites could turn the beasts against all of them. The hunt resumes. Mara made her decision. "We cannot wait for orders. We must hunt the parasite and destroy it before it spreads." Cinder and the beasts agreed silently, their mental voices like a whisper in her mind. "We will hunt together." The chase. Parasite drone left a faint trail of bioelectric energy. The beasts followed it like bloodhounds. They moved through dark forests, across broken ruins, deeper into Taran 4's shadows. The parasite was smart. It used traps, shifting the environment to confuse and slow them. At one point, Meyer slipped into a pit filled with razor-sharp spikes. She barely escaped, wounded but alive. The trap the parasite led them into an ancient alien ruin, a place where Taran 4's original inhabitants had lived thousands of years ago. The walls were covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly under the beast's gaze. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Massive stone slabs slid out from the walls, sealing off their escape routes. The parasite's voice echoed in Mara's mind, mocking, cold. "You cannot stop us to fight or die." The beasts growled low and circled, ready to fight. Mara loaded her rifle, preparing for the battle ahead. They were trapped, but they were not defeated. The parasite unleashed waves of tiny drones, sharp, fast, and deadly. They swarmed the beasts and humans, biting and injecting venom. Howl fought through the pain. Snapping drones in two, Fang charged through the swarm, tusks crushing machines beneath. Mara fired at anything moving, keeping the drones off the beasts. The cost, but the parasites were many. Howell's wounds grew worse. Meyer's limp slowed her down. Keller shouted, "We can't hold much longer." Mara knew they needed a plan fast. The final strike. Cinder and Mara shared a moment. "We end this here." Together. Mara nodded. She activated the emergency charge, a powerful device designed to destroy biological and mechanical threats in a wide radius. The beasts and Mara retreated to a safe corner. The charge exploded with a blinding light and wave of energy. Silence when the light faded. The parasite drones were gone. Howell and Meyer lay wounded, but alive. The parasite drone was destroyed. The warning. Cinder's voice was grim. This was only a small part. The real enemy waits deeper. It knows of Earth. Mara clenched her teeth. The galaxy was in deeper trouble than anyone thought. The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. A new kind of war was coming, one that no fleet, no weapon, no diplomacy could stop. The beasts of Earth had awakened, and so had the nightmares. The Galactic broadcast. The Galactic Union's main broadcast station buzzed with activity. Anchors tried to keep calm voices, but the fear was obvious. The Union's latest report confirms the destruction of the Taran 4 colony, one said. Alien creatures unknown before have attacked with deadly force. But Earth's Project Beast's soldiers fought back, destroying the threat. However, another anchor warned, the appearance of parasitic machines controlling the creatures raises new fears. The Union Council calls for emergency meetings. The Council in turmoil. The Galactic Union Council chamber was filled with voices raised in anger and fear. High Speaker Zorath slammed his gavel, trying to quiet the shouting. "This is unlike anything we have faced," he said. "We cannot rely on our fleets alone. We need new strategies. We need to understand Earth's Project Beasts." A Selvan counselor demanded, "Earth must surrender all Project Beasts technology for inspection." A Drenari military leader growled, "Or we must disarm them by force." Zorath held up his hand. "No rash actions. But we must prepare for all outcomes." Earth's response. Back on Earth, Mara sat in the command room of the vault. She was watching the Council's broadcast on a secure channel. Her jaw was tight. "They don't trust us," she said. Keller sat nearby, polishing his rifle. "Can you blame them?" "Those beasts. They are our last hope," Mara said. "And they are not just weapons. They are alive." The leak. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Security breach!" A technician yelled. Mara and Keller rushed to the vault's control panel. The system showed an unauthorized data transfer. Someone was stealing Project Beast's secrets. Keller cursed. "They want to use the beasts for their own war." Mara's eyes narrowed. "We must find them before it's too late." The hunter becomes the hunted. Outside the vault, shadows moved. A group of mercenaries, hired by unknown forces, slipped through the darkness. They carried advanced tech designed to capture and control the beasts. Their leader smiled coldly. "The galaxy will soon bow to those who control Earth's monsters." Mara's decision. Mara gathered the beasts in her small team. "We can't fight the galaxy and these mercenaries alone," she said. "We need allies." Cinder stepped forward, eyes glowing. "The time to hide is over. We must show strength." Mara nodded. "Then we go to the Union fleets. We show them we are the galaxy's protectors, not its threat." The first alliance. The journey to the Union's capital was tense. Beasts and humans traveled side by side, a strange and powerful team. When they arrived, many officers watched them with suspicion. One admiral whispered, "Are those things even controllable?" Mara stood tall. "They answer to me, and they will save us all." A shadow moves, unseen by most. A figure watched the arrival from a dark corner. It was the same alien intelligence behind the parasites, silent, patient, waiting for the right moment. Its many eyes reflected the beast's glowing gaze. The warning Mara was called to a private meeting with the High Speaker and several top generals. "We want cooperation," Zorith said. "But you must understand, if the beasts ever threaten the Union, we will act." Mara met his gaze. "I understand. But if you don't trust us, then we all lose." The room grew quiet. The test to prove their loyalty. Mara suggested a joint mission. The Union fleets would back the beasts in hunting the parasites' remaining forces. The Council agreed. Preparations began immediately. The enemy strikes before the mission could start. The mercenaries launched an attack on the vault. Explosions rocked the base. Mara and her team fought hard, but the mercenaries managed to free one of the beasts, Fang. Fang's eyes were wild. The mercenaries had used drugs to break its control. The beast rampaged through the base, destroying everything. The aftermath when Fang was finally subdued. The damage was severe. Mara knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was no longer just afraid of the parasites. Now it feared Earth's own creations, the beasts. The choice. Mara stood before the Council once more. "We fight together," she said, "or we fall apart." Cinder's golden eyes locked on hers. "We will fight. Because our Earth's last hope." The cold stars shone over the Union fleet as it gathered in the dark void. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered silently, waiting for orders. Earth's beasts stood tall and watchful on the deck of the command ship, muscles tense, eyes glowing. The galaxy was holding its breath. The calm before the storm. Mara stood beside Cinder, feeling the weight of what was to come. "All eyes are on us," she whispered. Keller checked his rifle again, nervous but ready. Suddenly, alarms blared across the fleet. The parasite's network was attacking. A massive swarm of drones and infected creatures poured from hidden asteroid fields, aiming to destroy the fleet before it could strike. The first clash. The battle erupted in a flash of light and sound. Beasts and humans fought side by side, their movements perfect and deadly. Cinder leapt onto a parasite queen drone, tearing it apart with savage strength. Howl darted through enemy lines, ripping drones in half. Mara fired from the command ship's turret, picking off targets with sharp precision. Keller covered the rear, shouting orders to the Union Marines. The tide turns. Despite the parasites' overwhelming numbers, the beasts adapted quickly. They communicated without words, striking in perfect harmony. The Union fleet, inspired by their courage, pushed forward with renewed strength. But the parasites were relentless. A betrayal in the middle of battle. An explosion rocked the command ship. An unknown saboteur had disabled the ship's shields. Enemy drones swarmed in, targeting the beasts directly. Cinder growled, sensing the danger. Mara's heart pounded. "We have a traitor." The hunt for the traitor. Mara ordered a lockdown and began searching for the saboteur. Keller and a small team followed her through the ship's dark corridors. The traitor was clever, leaving traps and false clues. Finally, they cornered the saboteur, a Union officer working for the parasite's masters. He smiled coldly. "You can't stop what's coming." Rallying the fleet with the traitor caught, Mara addressed the fleet. "We fight for unity, for survival. We will not fall because of fear or betrayal." The fleet roared with renewed energy. The final push. The beasts led a daring assault on the parasite's main base, a massive asteroid fortress deep in the system. They fought through endless waves of drones and infected creatures. Cinder faced the parasite overlord, a massive, dark entity controlling the hive mind. The overlord's fall. The fight was brutal. Cinder's strength and Mara's leadership combined to shatter the parasite's control. The overlord's body crumbled, and its hive mind collapsed. The parasite threat began to fade. Aftermath. The galaxy breathed a sigh of relief. The Union Council agreed to officially ally with Earth, and the beasts. Mara looked at Cinder, her trusted companion. "This is only the beginning," His voice echoed in her mind. The future Mara knew that peace was fragile. New threats would rise, and old fears would return. But humanity had shown it was not alone, that it had the beasts, and the galaxy would never forget.